Draft day, it is finally here. Let's talk some last minute buzz before Roger Goodell officially puts the Titans on the clock tonight. NFL Spotlight starts now. Welcome in. It is the Thursday, April 24 edition of the NFL Spotlight Show. We have made it. NFL Draft 2025. It is tonight after months and months of talk and rumblings and rumors from the combine to free agency to this entire process throughout the month of April. The big night is tonight. The Titans will officially be on the clock. Cam Ward will officially become a Tennessee Titan. And then all the chaos can officially begin. Yesterday on the show, I had my official 2025 NFL mock draft, my one and only that I do every single year. A lot of great reaction. A lot of people did reach out from the league about, hey, I would change this, I would change that. We'll talk a little bit about what they said, but that is my final one. I'm not changing it, even though there are some things I would like to. I'm not doing it. I'm leaving it leaving it as is. But I will mention a couple of things here in a couple of seconds when I bring in my good friend Ben Allen. But as a quick reminder, please make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to us. It is greatly appreciated. And just stay locked in here with NFL Spotlight. We're going to have YouTube shorts throughout the night as picks come in. We're going to have our full episode tomorrow morning as well with reaction. And I'm going to be joining the Check the Mic podcast here, the live stream that they're going to have tonight. I will be joining at around 7:20 Eastern before the NFL draft officially kicks off. So a lot going on over here at the 3013. I'm bringing my good friend Ben Allen. Ben, what is going on? Draft day, it is finally here. How are you feeling?
Whew. I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. Try not to blow out the speakers there for a minute, kind of to lean back, it's kind of the professional voiceover thing. I'm excited, dude. I've seen people saying they're like, it's going to be a boring draft. Oh, this, that, and the other. There's not all the sexy quarterbacks. Dude, I think it's going to be exciting because I really feel like we don't know what's going to happen. And I feel like even though the players may not be the crazy quarterbacks that we've seen the last couple of years, that it really is setting up for like chaos, which chaos is my best friend when it comes to transactions.
I mean, I'll tell you, Ben, like there are so many guys in this draft that they have a wide range of outcomes. Obviously, the big one is Shedeur Sanders, but a lot of these other guys here, we'll mention a couple of them here in a second. Like I've heard this guy could go as high as 8. He could go as low as 25. Like these guys have a wide range of outcomes. And frankly, like every year we do these mock drafts, we try to be as successful as possible, but nobody's able to obviously get it perfect. That's impossible. But I think this is the one year where a lot of guys are just going to be way off, and we're going to see it early on where it's like, whoa, I was not ready for that. I mean, we have some buzz out there about the Raiders could take Ashton Genty. No, it's not Genty. It's Membu. Now we're seeing maybe Kelvin Banks. Like people are trying to throw out things all over the place with these guys at the top of the draft. So I truly believe tonight you've seen a lot of different things, but the people who truly, truly know are those GMs. I would not discount owners getting involved. There are many stories, which we won't do today, but one day we should do a story time. Owners come in the day of the draft and like, hey, what are we doing? I don't like that. That stuff happens in the NFL. So this stuff throughout the course of the day, things could still change, and it's going to be a fun one.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and talk about some of those guys that are going to be higher and lower. I know you were working the phones today. You were talking to some big wigs. You were talking to some scouts. You were talking to all sorts of people. And I know you heard a mixture of guys that you could see going higher and some guys going lower than we've originally expected, what we've seen in the mock drafts, the big boards. What can you tell us as far as some of the guys that we should be keeping a keen eye on tonight?
All right, so I put out my mock draft yesterday. You put it out, you blast it out. It gets all the clicks in the world. Everyone loves checking it out, and that includes NFL buildings around the NFL. And those people will just text you like, hey, I agree with this. I agree with that. Where'd you hear this? I would change that. 4 names I'm going to mention here about guys you could go higher. One name that I think will go slightly lower than I think the general public is expecting. Number 1, I think Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle, I put him at 32 to the Eagles. He is not going that late in this draft. I think he's going much, much higher here. Would not surprise me top 15 for a player like him. Again, I put him all the way down at 32. The most reaction that I got from my mock is how he's not getting lucky again. He's not getting him at 32. Watch him. He's going to go far higher than that. And the player who I got in return people were like, hey, you're one of the very few people we've seen do this, but we agree with you. Mason Graham out of Michigan, who throughout the process was, mocked 5, 6, 7 in that range. I guess he could still go there, but I've heard a lot of him going somewhere in that 10 to 14 range here over the last 24 hours. For whatever reason, I mentioned yesterday, there are people within buildings who are in the analytics community who do not like him as a prospect, and they've relay that over to the executives in the building. And I do believe there are some GMs who just go by the film and that's it. There are some GMs who will listen to those people and be like, hey, why do you think this? Why do you think that? I've heard a lot of that here. Yesterday in my mock, I gave him number 11 to the 49ers. I still believe that is a possibility, but I still think there are people out there who have seen some mocks that are having him going in that 5, 6, 7 range. I guess we'll find out tonight, but would not surprise me if that does not happen for Michigan defensive tackle Mason Graham. Two more names who I think will go higher here. Josh Connerly, the offensive tackle out of Oregon. I put him at the bottom of the first round to the Lions, which I thought was me just sneaking him in. I think he also is somebody who would surprise me if he's not a first round pick, and it would not surprise me if he goes a little bit higher than that as well. We've mentioned it a million times here on this show over the last couple of weeks. NFL teams, dire need for offensive line help. We saw how much money these guys were getting in for agency. It truly was just stupid money for some players. I mean, Aaron Banks, what he got from Green Bay, Dan Moore, what he got from Tennessee, Jalen Moore from Kansas City, even Cam Robinson, the one-year deal he got from Houston. He did not have a good year in Minnesota after getting traded there. For him to get 1 year, $12 million up to $14 million, that just shows you how desperate these teams are for offensive lineman help. So Josh Connerly out of Oregon would not surprise me if he for sure goes in the first round, which I did put him in the mock yesterday, but I could see him going higher than that. He is somebody who could play left tackle, could also kick inside the guard if you want him to. Some teams do believe you could do that. The other name, which I keep on moving him higher and higher and higher and higher. A couple of weeks ago, I just came on the show doing a segment of guys who will go in the first round and might go higher than expected. I put Calvin Banks saying he'll go in the 20s. Yesterday in my mock, I put him at 9. Some people were really saying here the other day or yesterday while I was talking to people that he could go as high as 6 to the Raiders, 7 to the Jets, 9 to the Saints, which is where I put him, 10 to the Bears is alive. Like top 10 pick for Calvin Banks out of Texas is very real tonight. It could be a possibility. So those are the 4 names here that I've heard a lot about over these last 24 hours since my mock came out on yesterday's show. We will get all the answers tonight, but after putting it out, getting the reaction, those 4 names came back to me a lot, and that is 4 names to put in your back pocket going into tonight's draft.
Okay, well, obviously some of those guys that maybe fall a little bit are going to be spotlighted by some of the teams that maybe would want to move up. They see a guy that's like, man, Mason Graham's still available, that they're at 10. Maybe we want to jump in on that. So who are some of those teams that you think could be moving up, and who are some of the teams that you think are going to be trading down?
All right, so over this last 4 or 5 days, this is when teams truly start making those explanatory calls of what would it take to move up, what would it take to move down. Every single team makes those calls up and down. So whenever you see those reports, this team made a call here, like that's normal. Now, the thing you try to find out is which ones are actually aggressive and being serious about doing it. And this is kind of what I've gathered up over here over the last 24 hours. It really started heating up, I would say, Tuesday, Wednesday. Some executives are in the offices. Some guys just try to take a, let's take a breather, get out of the office, come back here Thursday morning. But these last couple of days is where it really started heating up, and you try to get some clarity on which teams are being real, which teams are not. Every team has at least an idea right now of what it would take to move up and what would it take to move down. The teams that I wrote down over here, number 1, the Bears at number 10. They've made some calls about the potential of moving up. I don't want to mention names of all these guys about who it might be, but for the Bears, my hunch would be Tyler Warren, the tight end of Penn State, or Ashton Genty, the running back out of Boise State, would be my hunch at what they are trying to get to over here. If they were to move up from number 10, we heard their GM, Ryan Poles, and assistant GM, Ian Cunningham. They basically both said in their individual press conferences earlier this week that it could get wild up there in the first round. I have not heard it to that extent, but maybe they are the team who tries to make it get wild at the top of the draft. The Cowboys, number 12, they have explored the idea of making a very, very small move up. That means not going into the top 10, but from 12 to 11 to 10. Those type of moves are stuff that they've made some calls about. The Colts, Chris Ballard moving up from 14. He tried to move up last year to try to get Brock Bowers. I think they feel the pressure there in Indianapolis. If there's a guy that they covet, who they think could go ahead of them, I think that is a team that could seriously consider triggering a move up. We mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Chris Ballard made some unconventional moves for his tenure when he made day one free agent signings, wave one free agent signings in Tarvarius Ward and Cam Bynum. That is not what Chris Ballard's habits have been. He has not been a big trade up guy, but I could see it happening this year if he has a guy that he believes could help them win in 2025 and survive this upcoming season in Indianapolis. The Broncos have made calls up and down, aggressive both ways. They're picking a number 20 right now, but I think that is a team that would be interested both ways depending on how the board starts falling on Thursday night. The Rams at 26 have made calls up. That sounds like it is a bit serious. The Chiefs at 31. I think everyone believes they're trying to get an offensive lineman here. If that is a run and it starts going a little bit fast, I could see them making a move up from 31, similar to how they did the last time they lost the Super Bowl when they moved up to try to get Trent McDuffie. A cornerback was a priority back then. They made sure to get their guy. I think there's a couple of guys in this draft they want to get. If they feel like it's getting a bit hot over there, they might strike to try to move up. As for the trade down teams, there are a lot of teams who want to trade down in this draft. The problem is actually finding a team that is willing to go up and give you the proper value. That is the big thing I did not mention over here. Some of these teams are trying to get discounts to move up over here because they've realized that a lot of teams are open to moving down because the value of players, they have a lot of players in the same bucket or tiers on their board. So trying to get the right value so far has been tough for teams trying to trade down. But Jaguars at 5, we mentioned they're going to go offensive player over here at number 5 as long as Abdul Carter is not there. For them, they are open to moving down. But to this point, they have not gotten the value that they want. But that is one team. The Panthers are number 8. They've probably been the one team that has been as open as it gets, and maybe would be willing to take a little bit less than the traditional charts, trade charts tell you to do. But the Panthers at 8 are definitely a team to watch. The Dolphins at 13, I think their GM Chris Greer has come to the realization that they have a lot of needs over here, and it might be worth it to try to get even more picks over here if that is possible. The Seahawks, their GM John Schneider, he has a long history of trading down. If their guy is not there, I think they would be open to it. The Steelers at 21, I know everyone has pegged them with Shedeur Sanders. That's where I put him as well. But that is a team that does not have a second-round pick. I think they would love to recoup some more picks as well. That is a team to watch as well. And then lastly, the Vikings at number 24. Least picks in this draft, only 4. That is a team that if you're trying to trade back in, maybe for a quarterback, that is a team to definitely give a call to. The Giants and the Saints from the top of round 2 are teams who could potentially trade back in to the first round to try to potentially maybe get a quarterback. Those two teams, I would be keeping an eye on those two teams over there. And then the Browns at 33, the first pick in the second round. I think teams have been calling them, trying to see if they would be interested in moving up. The vibe I've gotten so far, at least, is that they are okay with just sticking at 33 and letting the board fall to them. Whichever quarterbacks are there, they will maybe decide on that. If it's a different player, they will decide on that. To this point, at least, the Browns have not been a team calling other teams in the bottom of the first round about trading back into the first round.
I want to circle back to one of the teams you mentioned there, the Jacksonville Jaguars. It is kind of the belief right now that we're going to see Cam Ward 1. We're going to see Travis Hunter 2. There's a chance it could be Abdul Carter. If it's Abdul Carter at 2, then people assume that Travis Hunter is going to go 3. The only curveball to all this would be if Shedeur Sanders were to go, to the Giants. That would potentially screw things up. But assuming they don't, you've got those 3 guys out of the way. Will Campbell at 4. That means that the Jacksonville Jaguars there at 5, there's a lot of intrigue as to what could happen there. Again, if Abdul Carter is there, they probably take him. But you just mentioned the fact that they might be looking offense, and they really are one of the more hush-hush teams. We're still trying to get a gauge as to what they're doing with the new regime in there. What's your biggest, what are you hearing right now about where the Jaguars are actually leaning with this pick?
The Jaguars, I think Mason Graham, who everyone pegged to them, I don't think that's the pick. I think Mason Graham is going to slide a little bit over here. Like I mentioned before, in my mock yesterday, I gave them Ted McMillan. people around the NFL were like, that makes sense. They were like, listen, it's high for him, but for Liam Cohen, what he wants to do to get Trevor Lawrence back on track, they liked it. Ashton Genty, I think, is also a possibility. I just think about the Jaguars, this new front office, James Gladstone, Liam Cohen, who was in Tampa Bay last year and had success with Bucky Irving, who was picked in the 4th round. The Rams, they were able to find Kyron Williams, and they drafted Blake Corum last year. That is where James Gladstone came from. The other thing to mention here is if you're taking a running back at number 5, maybe the Jaguars are okay with this, but as soon as you pick Ashton Genty, he's making about $9 million per year. That is a top 7 paid running back in the NFL. That means you're not really getting value out of the rookie contract. So is that something they are comfortable with? Because we always talk about rookie deals. You want to get those players on cheap contracts. That is not a cheap contract for a running back. Maybe it just does not matter because Ashton Genty is a blue chip prospect. You bring him in, he's going to have 1,500 yards. Who cares? That could be their vision over here. But those 2 names I mentioned are the 2 that I think they're debating over there in Jacksonville. A trade down, maybe going from 5 to maybe 10. Maybe you could still get 10 McMillan there. That could be an option for them as well. I've heard they are very open to trading down. They have made calls to teams about, hey, would you want to come up to our spot? The answer they've gotten for the most part is, we don't want to come with the value it's going to take. So it's not going to happen. So I think they're open to moving down. But to this point, I don't think they've really gotten much interest. There is a belief, by the way, that they've also called the Browns about trading to number 2. I just don't see the Browns trading out of number 2. But there were those reports about the Browns listening to calls. I think the team that did call was the Jaguars because Travis Hunter, be bold, get a player. I think it makes sense. But I don't see Cleveland trading out of number 2.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit more about trades. And one of the hottest players on the market, allegedly, is George Pickens out there in Pittsburgh. What are the chances he gets traded tonight?
All right. I mean, I wish we could find the Ben, but I remember we did a show when we were talking about the Steelers, and I think we were talking about DK Metcalf. I kind of snuck it in there because I knew about it. I was like, hey, I'll believe it when I see it when it comes to George Pickens actually being in Pittsburgh. And finally, somebody reported that the Steelers have been making calls and have been getting calls about George Pickens. He's in the final year of his contract. He is somebody who has had an adventure so far in Pittsburgh, whether it's been on the field, off the field, antics, showing up late, a lot of different things going on over there. Mike Tomlin has a long history of controlling these guys, but I just think about him being in the final year of his contract, being extension eligible, and just seeing the Steelers going out there and being, yeah, let's trade for DK Metcalf and give him $33 million per year. And him being like, what the actual heck? So I think that is a scenario where the Steelers are open to listening. The question really becomes which NFL team would be willing to take him and would they actually give the Steelers any real value? Because for Pittsburgh, you drafted this guy in the 2nd round. His circus catches and his ability and his catch radius, it is insane, but there's just somebody you have to control and has to get matured. I don't really know if NFL teams are out here saying, you know what, yeah, we're going to trade for this guy and give him a contract. So that is really the holdup, I would say, over here. They're not going to trade him for a 5th-round pick or something. It's not going to happen. They have to get value for him. I think what ends up happening here, if I had to guess, this is just a guess, but he ends up staying in Pittsburgh because they have nothing else. Get him on the final year of his contract, make him play under it, and then let him become a free agent after this year. And DK Metcalf is your guy for the future. But the news that came out and finally came out that he's available does not surprise me at all. We mentioned it here on the show. I would say it was about a month ago. I said I'll see it when I believe it, but it does not surprise me that they are open to doing it. But I just have a hard time believing a team is going to step up and do it. I could be proven wrong. I think the Steelers are open to it, but they're going to have to get some real value to actually part ways with him.
I don't really want to entertain the whole will Aaron Rodgers announce anything before the draft because he very well could, he very well couldn't. We've beaten that horse to death. So let's just go ahead and talk about another quarterback that we've beaten to death recently, and that's Shedeur Sanders, who is now under what seems like just like this, like, I'm not going to curse, but a lot of people are throwing shade right now at Shedeur Sanders. Tom Pelissero had to report out that an unnamed coach called him the worst formal interview that he's ever been a part of. I'm not going to, no conspiracies here. This isn't a coordinated effort, I don't think, but are you surprised to see so many people coming in at the final hour and just throwing rocks at this guy?
It's so difficult. First of all, just that article, which I didn't really read initially, but then I saw everyone aggregating this specific quote. To the credit to the article, there were some positive stuff about Shedeur also there. I think that was a nitpicked part of the article. And the reality is there are people around the NFL who just didn't vibe with Shedeur. Like, that's fine. But this is a guy who has been around football his entire career. He's ultra confident. And for some of these teams, like, they're so used to these players coming in and being a little bit shy and trying to get them to settle in. Shedeur walks in like he owns the room, and I think that's a good thing. And some teams were like, "That's not our thing." Okay, that's you. I mean, that could be you, but like, I'm just so against this, and it drives me a little bit crazy. If you're gonna go out there and use an anonymous source to just bash a guy, I think you're better off not being anonymous. I think it's unfair to the player to be hidden like that and put it out there like that. That's the only thing I would say about this, but it's been out there since the combine. Like, he's different. He's different. Dion is different also. That's his dad. I mean, like, you got to live with it. And if he ends up being a good player, you know what? Who cares? I mean, I remember back when Lamar Jackson was coming into the NFL, he didn't have an agent. His entire process was a weird one because it was hard to figure out who to contact. And people in the NFL were like, dude, we can't imagine vibing with this guy and having him as our quarterback. You think the Ravens are complaining right now? I don't think so. 2-time MVP, could have been 3-time MVP this past year. So if the guy ends up being a good player, who the heck cares? So I just don't like all the anonymous sources stuff. It's been going on since the combine, but there is some legitimacy to some teams that were a little bit like, we're not used to a quarterback being like this. And you know what? That's the way it is with Deion Sanders. That's his son. And that's the way he vibes. And frankly, just my opinion, Ben, I think players in the locker room would like that. I think they like that type of a player. So I think a lot of it is overblown. I still don't know where he ends up in this draft. It's by far the biggest question as we go into tonight. But I just think it bothers me. It just bothers me. It happened with CJ Stroud also. If you're going to say something negatively, go put your name out there. And I love the fact that Chris Ballard, the Colts GM that year in the draft, CJ went to the Texans. That's a division rival. He went out there to the podium and was like, whoever did that, like, screw you. It's messed up. And you know what? I'm happy a team in the NFL put that to the side and still took him at number 2. So that's just my opinion about it. But we'll see what happens with Shedeur tonight. But I'm telling you right now, I think there are players in the NFL who would rock with Shedeur Sanders. His guys at Colorado, his guys at Jackson State, they all loved him. And I think he'll be loved in the NFL wherever he ends up, whether it's tonight or Friday night.
Well, let's move away from the draft stuff here for a moment to another guy who is a little bit different. He's a friend of the show. He's a little bit out there. He's not afraid to share his opinions, and that's Kirby Joseph, who just signed a massive extension with the Detroit Lions, 4 years, $86 million. This makes him the highest paid safety in NFL history, just getting him a little bit higher than Antoine Winfield Jr. What do you make of the deal? And pretty good money, right?
Well, we had Kerby Joseph on the show. It was right around when the playoffs started, when they were on a bye, if I recall. And by far the most entertaining interview that we did here on NFL Spotlight. And that was before he was named the first team All Pro. That was when he was snubbed for the Pro Bowl. And I mean, I think we could say now, we were talking a little bit before the show started, and he was just talking about, like, man, like, it's like, I don't get it. Like, I think people just hate me because I've had a couple of hits, but like, I led the league in interceptions and I'm one of the best safeties in football and nobody respects my name. Well, the Lions love him. The Lions respect him. And they just came through with a massive contract. You mentioned it, 4 years, $86 million. I have not seen the full structure yet. I have not seen what's fully guaranteed, what's injury guarantees. Is it actually a better deal than Antoine Winfield? None of that matters. But APY, he is the highest paid safety in football history. This is now the second consecutive year that the Lions on draft week have come in and did mega extensions. Last year, if you remember, they did Amon-Ra St. Brown and Penei Sewell in a matter of days right before the draft got underway in Detroit. And this year, they get this deal done with Kirby Joseph right before the NFL draft starts in Green Bay tonight. So a very well-deserved payday for one of the best safeties in the NFL. And we talked before about Shedeur, maybe doesn't vibe with everybody. Kirby Joseph and the way he talks and everything doesn't vibe with opponents for sure, but he vibes in that Lions locker room and he's loved in that Lions locker room. So that is a player who they covet. They drafted him, one of their own, and it's another big extension in Detroit. And this is the first of what should be 2 big extensions in Detroit because they also want to get Aiden Hutchinson done this offseason at some point as well. So Detroit is spending some big time money. Last year was Goff, Amon-Ra, Panay. This year it's Kirby, and it could be Aiden Hutchinson as well. But a very, very well-deserved payday for one of the best at what he does.
All right, Ari. Draft's a couple hours away now. We'll be here with you a little bit on the shorts. We'll be putting some video out as well on your page. Still trying to decide if we're going to go live after the draft. We'll definitely have something recorded after the draft, but we're going to have some content for you on Friday morning. If you didn't catch off the top of the show, we're going to have a live broadcast on Check the Mic with Sam Monson, Steve Palazzolo. You're going to be involved with it beforehand. I highly recommend being on there. I'll be working behind the scenes as well, making sure that show runs spick and span. It's going to be some good content. It's a good supplementary piece. It's a good thing just to watch by itself. And yeah, Ari, it's go time. I'm excited. I know you're excited. Hit subscribe.
Yep, that will do it here for our Thursday, April 24 edition of the NFL Spotlight Show. Enjoy the NFL draft tonight wherever you watch it. I still have not decided if I'm going to post the picks a little bit early on Twitter. We'll see, but it's going to be a fun one. There's going to be chaos, and it's going to be really exciting, and we will be back here potentially as early as tonight, right away live, or potentially also Friday morning, just as your regular episode as we react to everything that happens here on Thursday night in round one of the NFL draft. Enjoy it, and we'll see you all here tonight or tomorrow.